I Googled what are puts, right? And they're like, the textbook definition comes up. You're controlling 100 short shares. It profits as the stock price goes down. And I was like, whoa, that was a light bulb moment for me. Wow, I can make money when stocks go down. I didn't know that was even possible.
This is the How to Trade Stocks and Options podcast, brought to you by 10MinuteStockTrader.com, where we cover finance, stocks, options, entrepreneurship, education, and money. And here's your host, voted one of the top 100 people in finance, Christopher Uhl. Hey there, traders. Welcome back to today's How to Trade Stocks and Options podcast. Today, we have a special lesson for you. I'm putting it here on the podcast because I really believe that this is going to provide you massive, massive value. And that's what I'm trying to do here. And hey, listen, if this podcast was useful to you at all, I really highly suggest that you go check out the full trading course at AIStockTradingSystem.com. That's AIStockTradingSystem.com. Hey, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you'll be notified every time we give you more tools, tips, and tricks to help you trade faster and trade smarter every single week.
You're listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, where you get valuable information you just can't find anywhere else. To thrive in today's trying times, you need the Financial Survival Network, now more than ever. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and get your free newsletter and gift. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.
Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz, and today is 3/16/21. Well, person you're about to hear from bills himself as the 10-minute stock trader, and you find him at 10-minutestocktrader.com. And we're going to hear about his pathway to success and how you can do the same. His headline here is How Not to Trade Options, How I Learned to Trade the Hard Way. And it's so emblematic of life in general, of the way you succeed. You don't succeed by just getting into something and becoming an overnight success, although it will happen to you on occasion. It's happened to me. Really, what you do is you fail your way to success. And hopefully your failures don't break you. You are never a failure yourself unless you believe you're a failure. And I think that's the most important thing. So his name is Christopher Uhl. We'd like to get your thoughts on this. Send us an email to kl@kerrylutz.com. Christopher, welcome to the show. So first, 10minutestocktrader.com. What's that about?
Well, Kerry, back in the day, I was starting my trading blog, and the way that I did it, the way that I was trading at the time, I couldn't trade on my work computer, was I would pull out my iPad. So I had the iPad with the data plan on it. And I'm like, I only got about 10 minutes a day to figure out how to do this, right? Pulling out iPads out of my backpack, making all the trades I can while I'm doing that. And in the process, I'm like, I cannot make this complicated, obviously, because there's no way you can make 14 different monitors of information onto one little iPad. And I was like, how do I speed this up? How do I make this simple? And when I started my website, 10minutestocktrader.com, I was like, what is the most clickbaity name that I can think of to get people to come and visit the site? And I was like, I trade about 10 minutes a day. 10-minute stock trader sounds pretty cool. Checked it out on the, if it was available, and it was. And I was like, bam, that's my name. So I'm going with that. And, you and I were talking beforehand. I got to say, I was really, really fortunate that I learned to trade with about $5,000. And I blew up my account twice before really finding a path to success and a path of trading that worked for me. But not only that, like if I had started with $500,000, I mean, the devastation that I would have felt from losing 500,000 to zero versus 5,000 to zero, I don't think I ever would have recovered from. So I feel really grateful that, in the grand scheme of things, I started with a very fortunate position, because I've talked to several traders, in fact, some former NBA players. They're like, hey, how much do I need to start with? And I'm like, take whatever you want and do like 10% of that. I mean, literally, because you're going to lose it. I mean, I don't doubt your intelligence. I don't doubt your skills, but you're going to lose it. And you're going to be like, oh man, I can't believe that I lost, trader that I talked to in the past, $1.2 million on this, marijuana trade. when Chris said, maybe not go so big on this kind of thing. So I feel really fortunate to have started in that way. And it's funny because my account, like Kerry, there was a day where I was in the office talking to other people, and somebody was saying, if you feel so strongly about Deutsche Bank, I'm just like overhearing a conversation. If you feel so strongly about Deutsche Bank, why don't you just go buy puts on it? And I was like, what did they just say? And so like I went to business school and everything, and I'm like, I know I've heard of puts, but I don't remember anything about them. So I Googled what are puts, right? And they're like, the textbook definition comes up. You're controlling 100 short shares. It profits as the stock price goes down. And I was like, whoa, that was a light bulb moment for me. Wow, I can make money when stocks go down. I didn't know that was even possible. So I was one of those nerds that kept all my textbooks, and I worked in corporate finance. And so I went over to my literal library on my desk right there. I'm actually sitting in my library right now, my library of textbooks, and pulled out the textbooks there, and the finance textbook, 900 pages, right? And I slammed it down on the table, and the earth shakes whenever you drop a big book like that. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those books where I paid $150 in college, and I managed to put 2 entire tabs in the entire 900 pages that I thought would be worth going back to. And one of those tabs was bonds, and as you know, bonds are their own kind of weird beast. And then options, and so I'm like, well, this is pretty cool. So I start reading through there, getting all the textbook definitions and stuff. And I'm like, I think I'm onto something. I really think that this is something I am interested in pursuing. And so I'm like, well, I got to find some money, right? I can't start trading with nothing. So I had left a company previously, and it was one of those companies where like they automatically contributed to your 401k plan. I literally didn't do anything to it. And I was looking to open with a broker, and the broker said you needed $5,000 to start the account. And so I cashed out this old 401k, and after fees and the penalties and everything to do that. Kerry, when I tell you that I had goosebumps when I opened this check, you're not going to believe this. I opened the check, and the check was for $5,000.15. I was like, this is divine providence here. Like, if I am not on the right track, I couldn't tell you what the right track was. So I opened my account, and the next 60 days proceeded to lose 2/3 of that. And of course, I was like, I thought I had this figured out. Like, I thought I was a genius here, right? I studied, 60 days in, I should have figured everything out by then, right? But it's like, you don't go to law school, you don't go to medical school, you don't go to any sort of professional schooling and think 60 days in that you're going to know everything. And that was exactly the mentality that I had coming out of it. So I was like, okay, I got to go back to the drawing board here. What really I was doing, Kerry, was my thought process was stocks always go up. I'm going to buy boatloads of out of the money calls, and I'll be retired by the end of the week. This is going to be fine. But really what happened was all those calls expired out of the money. And when a call expires out of the money, they're worthless. I mean, it's not like buying stock where you'll have equity at the end of the day. It literally went to zero, like $0 was the value of them. And so I took 6 months off, and I'm like, I'm going to take 6 months to just figure out what to do. And so I learned all about selling options, which is basically the opposite of buying the options. And I really thought that I was onto something because with selling options, you've got high probability, whereas the stock can actually move quite a bit one way or the other before your trade can lose money at expiration. So I really figured, hey, you know what? This is the path I want to go down. I'm going to work on this. So I spent several months playing with that. And then I saved up some money in the meantime, another $5,000, and went back into my trading account. And I was actually doing okay. Like, the win rates were coming through. Like, statistically speaking, with options, you can realistically look at 70 or 80% win rates. And I was getting those 70 and 80% win rates. But when I would lose a trade, it would be worth 8 times as much as a winner. So, I mean, for round numbers here, maybe I would win $100 on a trade 8 times in a row. And then I'd have one loser that would take out, $600, $800. And I'm like, starting from scratch again. Okay. So that was really frustrating, but at least I was on a track where I felt like I was making progress. And then, Kerry, there's this thing called trend following, where if the trend is up, it's the path of least resistance to just go with that trend. But I didn't realize that. I realized that at the time, I wanted to be one of those people who called tops and bottoms. And so I was selling puts into gold when it was falling a couple of years ago. I don't remember what year it was, but it was falling. I mean, it was just in free fall. You can look at any chart and just see it like basically going straight down. And I was like, I'm gonna call the bottom of this. And so I levered up. It wasn't just gold. It was like gold. It was gold miners. It was junior gold miners. It was silver. It was like, this has got to be it. And I'm gonna make money in every direction when this goes back up. And it just kept going down and down and down. I remember it was around the time my family and I went to Disney World, and like I'm just glued to my phone the whole time, like, oh my God, I'm losing. I'd never learned about cutting your losses. I'd never learned about trading with the trend. And by the end of it, I had once again blown up my account. And I'm like, well, that was stupid. There's this, the way that I view trading, and I had somebody ask me this one day. He was writing a trading book, and the first question inside the trading book, it's like a workbook. The first question is, why do you trade? And I never actually sat down and I was like, why do I trade?
Question.
Yeah, it wasn't because I was making tons of money, obviously, but it was the love of the game. And like the idea that it's like, Kerry, if you and I were to play chess, why would we play chess? Well, it's for the love of the game.
Yeah, well, exactly.
And so that's the mentality that I've taken ever since he asked me that question. And I mean, it's really totally changed how I view my trading. And now my older son, he loves to play chess. And so he and I will play it at home. We have several different chess boards, and I have an iPhone app. And so when we go out to dinner, he'll sit on one side of the table, I'll sit on the other, and we'll play chess on my phone against each other. And he beats me, and I love it. And I'm just so proud of him, because it's like, this is a complicated game, and it doesn't matter what your age is, but you can actually learn the skill level in order to trade or to play chess. And then, like, when you follow the plan, when you follow the strategy, things just start working together, right? But you don't learn that strategy right off. It takes a lot of losing in chess and in trading. I call it my Wall Street tuition, before you really figure out what works, A, what works, and B, what works for you. Because what works for me may not work for somebody else. Like I was talking to somebody the other day. I only close trades at the end of the day, and I don't have like stops in at the market, but I close them at predetermined levels based on profits or losses only at the end of the day, because that is a one data point set where I can say, this is the data point that I'm using, versus the 6.5 hours that the market's open. Anything can happen. And I don't know, probably twice a day, my actual stop would have been violated and triggered, and I would have had to close it and had to deal with other things. Whereas if I just take the one data point of closing at the end of the day, I know it's black and white, Kerry. It's either above or below where it needs to be. And then I can make that decision. So it's removing a lot of variables. It's figuring out what works for you, and then just maximizing it in the fact that you've got to remove emotion and just think logically. And that's the hardest part for traders, really. It's the fact that a lot of people, like, they will obsess and say, it has to do this, it has to do that. Well, it's just like playing chess. If I move my knight and you take out my knight, I've got to reevaluate my game plan.
Yeah. So it's when you're dealing with the markets, nothing has to be.
Exactly.
Your expectations don't control the market any more than anyone else's do, maybe collectively, but that's something you really can't control. So you're teaching this course now. What's involved here?
So I have a course. It's called the AI Stock Trading System. And I partnered with the artificial intelligence stock pick provider. And basically they had a lot of questions that people were having using their service, and they would send them all to me because we had a relationship there through the podcast. And I was like, how about we just make this a partnership here? How about I make a course teaching everybody how to use the data that you're providing, because they're getting it. It's like this. If I were to hand you the keys to a Ferrari, but you've never driven a car before. So basically, I'm your driver's ed instructor on how to drive the Ferrari. And so that has been really, really well received. People and I teach them how to trade with stocks and options. It's not one or the other, because, maybe you are a person who's never traded options. You're not comfortable with the risk of them, but you totally get stocks. So I give them the way to do either or both. And that's how I like to trade. I'll trade stocks or options depending on the security, right? If it has liquid options, I'll go for it. But if it doesn't, then I'm okay with just stock.
Right. All right. So during this time when you've been teaching this course, tell us some success stories here.
So, well, I got to say, it's middle of March right now. My personal account, which sounds unbelievable, I know, it's up 75% on the year. And, like I say, it's all a chess game. And right now, my everything lined up correctly at the first quarter of the year. And I was able to, take a checkmate on the first quarter of the year. But really, it's being market aware, right? If the market's going down, don't put on trades. I mean, just as simple as that. If the market is like the NASDAQ was, or how Tesla was, and how we've seen the S&P having some instability, if you're seeing that in the market, don't trade. That's the simplest advice that I could give to anybody. But if you see some sectors, which I did really well in oil and I did really well in the financials, and both of those have been taken off. And so, like we talked about earlier, just trend following. I listened to Michael Covell has an amazing book called Trend Following, as simple as that is. In fact, I had read the 2004 version of it, and then I only found out about 3 weeks ago that he had a 2016 version of it. So I'm rereading again. Wow. And one of the people that he interviews in there and talks about trend following, so it's like, if you look at a trend, it's going up, and it doesn't matter where you get in on the way up. What matters is where you get out. And only you can decide that risk tolerance that you're going to take. You can ride it all the way up to infinity, or you can say, if it starts to reverse, if it comes down X% from a high, whatever the case is. For me, I like to use moving averages. And if stocks are basically following up their moving averages, then you can tell it's going up. But whenever the stock reverses, whenever it starts breaking through those moving averages, I mean, there's no point in keeping it if the price today is less than it has been over the last 2 weeks, right? If you break out a 10-day exponential moving average, nobody wants it anymore, right? Maybe in the last few weeks they did, but now they're done with it. So I keep it so simple. And that goes back to, my original ideology is, how can we simplify this to only trade in 10 minutes a day?
All right. And that's the name of the game, 10minutestocktrader.com. Take a look at that. And Christopher, we really appreciate you coming here. If you have any questions for him, just send us an email to kl@kerrylutz.com. We'll make sure he gets it. Get your question answered, and make sure you sign up for our free newsletter at financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Christopher, it's been a pleasure. We'll talk to you again soon, and happy trading.
Okay, so what'd you think? That was pretty incredible, right? Now, if you like that, that's only a taste, only a sample of what you're going to find in the full AI stock trading system. And I really highly encourage you to go and check this out. Obviously, you are interested in learning on how to trade, and that's why you're listening to this podcast. Now, I'm going to take and download my entire trading system that I use day in and day out onto you. And the only way I'm going to be able to do that is over at the AIStockTradingSystem.com. You're going to get phase 1, 2, and 3, several bonuses, and on top of that, I'm going to walk you through over a dozen trades that I put on inside of my account, holding your hand and showing you exactly how I got in, how I got out, how I use the artificial intelligence data, and how this could work inside of your own trading portfolio on a daily basis. So make sure you head on over to AIStockTradingSystem.com. That's AIStockTradingSystem.com to learn more and to get started and to download my decade plus worth of trading experience into your hands so you can start using the AI stock trading system today, the 5-step system to take the guesswork out of trading. Hey, if you like this video, let me know by leaving me a like below, and then subscribe and share it with somebody you think could use it as well. Be sure to comment below with your biggest takeaway from this episode and any suggestions you have for future episodes. And finally, make sure you watch these other videos to help you trade faster and trade smarter, and I'll see you on the next episode.